Hello and welcome to my Law Talk. I am Raptorian and today we will be talking about magic. In fact, about a particular spell from the famous Harry Potter series of books by J.K. Rowling. So as you probably already know, the world of Harry Potter has plenty of different spells. Some will let a witch or a wizard conjure all manner of objects, barriers, repair broken things, lift heavy objects, and even enchant ordinary items to perform extraordinary feats. In this magical world, pigs, or better said, cars, really do fly. All these spells are great and very practical. They can be used in so many scenarios and produce a plethora of interesting results. However, the spell we will be talking about today has only a singular purpose. And to start off on a high note, we will be covering the killing curse, no less. No, not the Meteorus Viperus, that very funny, yes. We will be discussing Avada Kedavra. Yes, thank you, Tom. Now, one could argue that any spell can be used to induce harm, but nothing in magical world shows the killing intent, as Avada Kedavra does. In fact, the Magical Society found this spell so devastating and malicious in its purpose that it has been marked as one of 3 unforgivable curses. It comes as no surprise, then, that this terrible spell was a signature move of the infamous Tom Riddle, better known perhaps as the Lord Voldemort, or the one that must not be named. A quote from the book describes the spell quite well, in my opinion. There was a flash of blinding green light, and a rushing sound, as though a vast, invisible something was soaring through the air. Instantaneously, the spider rolled over onto its back, unmarked, but unmistakably dead. From this quote, one could draw the conclusion that a wizard or a witch casting Avada Kedavra was manifesting the death itself onto its victim. Like the death itself, this spell would not be stopped by any shield charm known. So this would make any witch or wizard a master of death, right? Well, not quite. Avada Kedavra, powerful as it is, suffers the same drawback as any other projected spell does. It can be avoided, although difficult, one could move out of its way. Also, the caster of the spell could miss its target. As any beam-type curse, the beam must connect for the curse to take effect, which is often the case considering the great speed of the beam. Looking at the spell itself, we can summarize that it only works on a living target, implying that the spell can be blocked by an object, terrain, or another spell beam, although the last example might prove impossible to produce. As mentioned before, the curse upon contact with a living target would produce instantaneous death with no damage to the body. An unliving object would manifest, however, a much different result. In most cases, a large gust of green flame would sprout from the point of impact. In others, an explosion would follow. However, certain cases would render the spell completely ineffective. Example of this being the magically enchanted centaur statue at the Fountain of the Magical Brethren, which show no signs of damage or loss of animation upon the contact with the curse. This makes sense, since the statue was never alive, but merely animated by magic. As to why no destructive effect was produced, we can only theorize on. My personal theory is that Avada Kedavra simply removes the soul of its victim, causing no damage to either body or soul, but the separation of the two, resulting in death. In fact, this incredible curse can only be countered by utilizing the most powerful and ancient types of magic. An incredibly powerful counter-charm can be created by willingly sacrificing oneself in order to shield another. If we look at the example of Lily Potter, who willingly gave her life in order to manifest the sacrificial protection upon her son, as the book states, "Your mother died to save you." If there is one thing Voldemort cannot understand, it is love. He didn't realize that love as powerful as your mother's, for you leaves its own mark. Not a scar, no visible sign. To have been loved so deeply, even though the person who loved us is gone, will give us some protection forever. However, this method of protection requires a sacrifice to be performed willingly and out of deep and pure love. Another way of possibly stopping Avada Kedavra would be the priori incantatum, which occurs when twin wands, that would be wands with the same core taken from a same magical beast, find themselves locked in combat. Now this is an extremely rare occurrence, and truly the one we cannot count on. So perhaps we find ourselves fortunate that Avada Kedavra suffers some drawbacks. For example, a drawback of this curse is that it requires a fair amount of power, skill, and most importantly, intent to produce. As stated to a room full of students, Avada Kedavra is a curse that needs a powerful bit of magic behind it. You could all get your wands out and point them at me and say the words, but I doubt I'll get as much as a nosebleed. There is one more way to survive this curse, although I would rather not mention it, and that would be through the use of Horcrux. Now, I won't go to too much detail about Horcruxes, but that would basically be an object enchanted by a powerful dark magic to serve as both the vessel and an anchor for a piece of a soul. Lord Voldemort, in fact, survived an impact of the killing curse using just such object. Interesting topic, but better left for another lesson. Now, do not let these examples of defense fool you, though. Almost all are next to impossible to reproduce, or in best cases very improbable. This would make Avada Kedavra one of the most powerful curses ever created, and certainly cement its place amongst the list of the unforgivable curses.